Okay, so my phone ran out of storage again, so I had to delete more stuff. Putting it back on my tripod here. So, I don't edit these videos, so I'm just gonna upload separately again, like I did kind of the last time. So where my last video ended up, I was talking about how my thankfulness has changed a lot because, although in the new age, like I was still practicing gratefulness, it was totally different from what my thankfulness looks like now and what my praise looks like now. I mean, my time in worship and my time just going throughout my day and thanking God for every little thing is so much more life-giving than, you know, what I think happens in the new age or like what I was doing before. Because before I would just, I would have moments where I was feeling gratitude and I would feel it, deep inside, and I was happy and I was thankful for, where I was versus where I was when I was, depressed all day every day. I mean, obviously that's a great difference. Like going from being depressed to at least, being excited about fleshly things, feeling energized, like everything that I was feeling, yes, like that's improvement, but it still wasn't anything to be, it wasn't a good place to be still. But like where I am now, just the time that I spend in thankfulness is so much more life-giving. It lasts a lot longer. Like the gladness and just how I feel like enveloped after praise and after worship and after just really spending time thanking God for my heart is, that's so much different from what I was doing before and how I felt before. What are you doing? Come here. Forever getting into things. Hey! Drop it. That's not your umbrella. Bring it here. Bring it here. She's just looking at me. Bring it here. Brat. This is why I'm not ready to be a parent, like, right now. Because I can't even control these animals. Come here. Come here. Can you stay out of trouble, please? Okay, so to rein things in and get really specific about some things that were awesome in 2019, not to focus on, the bad things, but I also felt it was important to talk about how far I came, how much things changed, because I want you to know that if you're in the place that I was in, it's possible. You have no idea what God is capable of. You have no idea. And you can say like, oh, no, I've seen, some miracles and, that's great, but I just don't think that can happen for me. You have no idea. Okay? Stop thinking you know everything like I thought I knew everything. You have no clue what God could do for you in 2020. You have no clue. Okay, so just to talk about 3 months. For me, the last 90 days of the year, I've kind of treated as this special thing because I feel like it's really a time that we can end the year on a good note, end the year the same way that you want to start it, essentially. So the last 90 days of the year, I set some specific goals, some things that I completed, some things I didn't, some things happened that I couldn't have even asked for or imagined, and I was blessed in so many ways. There's hair on my chin. I still feel it. That's my regular hair. Okay. So some of the specific things that I wanted to focus on were like my marriage and my husband. And since that's not just talking about like the intimacies of my personal life, like it's his, I won't talk about that a whole lot, but God blessed us in that area in ways that I couldn't have even thought to ask for. I couldn't have even thought were possible. And things didn't change exactly in the way that I was hoping that they would, but I think that God is still moving. Like there's still things that are working and falling into place, and there's so much that's happening there that I can't even see. And that's something that my coworker just keeps reassuring me of is because when God gives you a promise, God, he gave me a vision at the beginning of might have been September or October, concerning my husband. I have not told him about the specific vision. I'm not going to talk about the specific vision on here, but it was drastic, and it was, I mean, in the best way possible. It was something that I never thought that I would see from him. And it was just really incredible. So for me, and I just kept getting this word that, like, that was my promise for him. Like, that was one of God's promises. And just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean I'm still not believing for it, because I know that he keeps every promise. And I mean, he's still taking steps towards fulfilling what that vision was. So concerning that, my husband, that was a big focus for the last 90 days. And that is, I mean, that area, I like I said, I'm not going to talk about his life, but it's just really incredible, the things that God has blessed us with just in that small period of time of 3 months, and in areas that I didn't even think, I didn't even think it would be possible for this time in our lives. Like, it's just insane. Another thing that I wanted to focus on was health. That I tend to make too many goals. I tend to make very vast goals because I am a very ambitious person, and I want to do more than one thing at once. So I started a workout program. I did it for 2 of the 3 months. Whoop-de-doo. It's okay. That wasn't, it's funny because it seems like the areas where God blessed me, like the true blessings that came out of the last 90 days of the year, were things that I didn't ask for. Imagine that, because I don't know everything, and I don't know what's best for me. And, I don't know, I, did spend more time trying to surrender. I spent more time learning prayer. I spent more time practicing worship. I spent more time reading my Bible. One thing, pretty much the only thing incremental that I accomplished that was like one of my original goals was I finished the Bible. I finished reading the Bible the first time I've ever read it. The first time I have ever read it all the way through. Like, before, I have read different parts of the New Testament and things like that, but any time that I would start from Genesis and try to go all the way through, like, it hasn't happened. Like, I never committed and stayed true to that goal. But this year I did. I finished it in essentially 6 months, so that gives me hope to know that I can do it again and again and again. And I'm excited to read more versions, because I was reading the New International Version, which whatever, won't get into that. But I'm just really excited to have done that, because for a really long time, like in the middle, especially when I was getting through the longer books, like, I wasn't so sure it was going to be possible, but it happened. And I do think that was a blessing in itself. Different areas that I didn't even know to ask for blessing in that I got. Where should I go with this one? I've already talked about my hormones. So I basically 3 or 4 weeks ago, I just got this revelation. Like, I just got this feeling, and I was like, I know that if I ask God, that I can be free, and that he will heal my hormones, because we have to be willing to surrender everything, no matter how bad it scares us. We have to be willing to surrender everything. Like, there's no plan B. You can't have a backup plan when you're talking about really giving your life to God. So, I had been kind of fighting to keep a hold of my progesterone. I think I gave up testosterone in September. Testosterone takes a little bit longer to get out of your system, but now I know it's totally out of my system because I'm tired again. That's another thing I'm working on, but I know that I can be delivered of, because So to explain a little bit about how the progesterone affects me, um, this time last year, if I had missed a couple of my progesterone troches, it's a hormone replacement. So it's not like a pill. It's like it gets, I don't know exactly how it gets a part of your hormones. Like I don't understand that part, but um if I missed a couple of them last year, then I would spiral and I would be depressed immediately. There were a couple of times when I didn't refill at the end of the month, and if I missed a couple of days, I would just be in bed and I couldn't find the motivation to go and get more of my hormones. Like I would just give up basically. Um, yeah, that's how badly it affected me a year ago. I haven't taken them in 4 weeks, and I have not at any point felt like I haven't felt any ounce of depression at all, which is huge, especially considering that we're in the winter months. Like I live in Missouri, you don't get a lot of sunshine. Like I bought a sun lamp because I thought that would be something that would help me with like the depression or with because they also said I was vitamin D deficient, my energy and whatnot. But you know, I just for some reason knew immediately, like after I had this time in prayer and worship, and I asked for healing, and I just knew that if I laid down my hormones, that it would be taken care of, that I would be healed, and I truly and honestly believe that I am. Um, one of the things that I think that one of the reasons that I think that my hormones were such an area of attack was because like growing up, like I always wanted to be a mom. Like ever since I was a little girl, I knew that that was the most important, the very best thing that I could ever do. I felt like for me, I'm not saying that's for every person. Like I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life, but for me, I knew that the best thing that I could do was to be a mother. And so, like in high school, I started to have doubts and started to have these feelings and these fears of like, what if I can't have kids? What if I can't be a mom? Because around that time, you're thinking about what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And the only thing that I could imagine or think of that would really be fulfilling to me was to raise a family. And, I know that that's kind of a traditional view that isn't as common anymore, even though a lot of people I think end up falling back into doing that just out of necessity, and the lack of like childcare so expensive and things like that. But I have always been a little bit more traditional in that sense because I just would really love to be home with my children. And so like high school, I started having these doubts and things like that. And there was a really big moment when God was speaking with me about adoption. Like there was this huge moment. And for some reason, instead of taking that as like, oh, like, wow, that's a really great opportunity. Like I could be a mother to someone who, you know, I'm really sensitive about, can you stop like the foster program? Like I'm very passionate about children. Okay, like I've never really worked with children. I'm awkward around children, like other people's children, but I just know for a fact that like I was born to be a mom. And so I do feel like that was just an area that the devil attacked in my life, like just an area that was very open and vulnerable because it was something that I wanted so badly. And so when was it? I think it was like when Jordan and I first started dating. Like I found out that like I what did I have? I had like a ultrasound because I had a cyst that wasn't going away, and they're like, by the way, did you know that your uterus is super thin, and that's a big reason why people can't have kids. I mean, I don't know, I don't know how different my life could have been if I didn't even know that information. Like maybe I wouldn't have fed into it so much, but it was such an area of stress and concern for me for so long because I just was like, even though I wasn't wanting to have children 7 or 8 years ago, like I knew that it was going to be an important part of my life in the future. And I was just terrified, like terrified. And that was just an area of attack ever since then. Like with my hormones, if you don't know, progesterone is important for getting pregnant and maintaining a pregnancy. And for me to have almost none. And for doctors to sit there and tell me a year ago, year and a half, 2 years ago, a year, somewhere in between a year and 2 years ago, that I was basically going through menopause was terrifying. I mean, that was a big source of I just didn't feel like I had any possible purpose in life at that point, because I was like, that's all I've ever wanted to do. That's all I've ever wanted. And for somebody to tell you in different circumstances to come up to make you think that, like, yeah, like I knew at the time, I was like, yeah, I could adopt, but like, everyone initially wants to have their own. I feel a lot differently now, which is a huge area of deliverance for me, just because I know that I can love anyone as much as I could. I know how much I'm capable of loving others now, and I know that I would be able to love someone else's baby as my own. Like, I'm not concerned about that anymore. I just think that was a huge area of deliverance that I couldn't have, like, that wasn't one of my goals going into the last 90 days of the year. Like, I didn't know that was even possible for me. But for me to have a moment where I just surrendered that part, like surrendered such, probably most important thing to me, I surrendered. And I just immediately knew, I was like, I know that I will be healed. And it's so strange, but ever since I've been off the testosterone, or since I've been off the progesterone, and that once you stop taking that medication, like, it's out of your system in a couple of days. As soon as I stopped taking it, like, I just knew, I was feeling more naturally revived. Like, I was feeling more naturally feminine. I was feeling more like, I just knew immediately that everything was fine. Whatever was on me, whatever was causing that, whatever stress, whatever demonic power, whatever spiritual force, whatever was surrounding me in that area that was trying to keep me trapped in fear, just all of those things, it was gone. It's gone. And that's like, even if that was the one thing that I got out of this year, that would be tremendous, but it wasn't. Like, I got so much out of this year. Like, it's, part of me is a little bit scared that I'm going to be disappointed next year, but I know that that's not true. I know that that's not possible. What was the other thing? So that's pretty big. I'm really thirsty. Might not be able to talk here in a second. What was the other really big thing? I had healing in my ankles. Like, I've had a lot of physical healing, which is interesting. I think I talked about it once on here already. Like, I had healing in my ankles, sprained my ankle real bad. The next day, went to church, like, rose my hand for healing, like, believed it. Like, the day before, God told me that, if you step forward and you ask me to heal you, then I will do it. Like, put your pride away. Don't be so scared of people looking at you and judging you. Step forward in obedience, accept my healing, and I'll give it to you. And I got it. And I think that in a way, that was kind of like a precursor for this whole hormone healing thing, because, for me to even think that was possible 6 months ago, like, I couldn't have even imagined. I was still grasping and holding on to it so tightly even 2 months ago. I mean, it's really insane. I don't even know. Like, the past 60 days, oh my gosh, I totally even forgot. So the past 90 days, one of my other goals that I had was I wanted to start working full time. Literally a week later, after I set that goal, like, I just had a moment where I was talking with God, and I just had this feeling, and he was like, well, ask your coworkers if there's any room for you to have hours anywhere. Just ask them. And so I asked them, and there was just this opportunity, and I was like, why was I so blind to this for the past 6 months when I was wanting, more work? And, I was only working part-time for a couple of years until September or October. So that's another big deal. That's blessed my finances, like, in ways that, working full-time again has been huge. I have gotten my debt under control. I have a plan. I used to not look at my credit card statements. I used to feel so suffocated, so buried that I wouldn't even read my statements. I didn't know the last time that I had made a payment because I couldn't keep up on them. I finally like have a system. I have it under control. I know exactly when they're going to be paid off, like if not sooner. So that's a huge area of deliverance that has happened just in the last 90 days. I started volunteering because I obviously wanted to start giving in ways that I hadn't before. I wanted an opportunity to intercede. I wanted an opportunity to just set a set time aside in the day where I would be out in public around people, where I'd be available to hear his voice and just step out when needed. So I've been volunteering in a pulmonary rehab at North Kansas City Hospital for basically the last 2.5 months, I think. And basically, I just, there's really not a whole lot that I feel like I do there that helps. I just do busy work. I just clean, I just file, I just, do whatever I can to bless them. But I'm also like interceding at the same time and just praying for them and just being there. I pick up on things and people in their situations where prayers needed that I wouldn't have any idea otherwise. So it's like, you can't say that a stranger is less important. Praying for a stranger is less important than praying for your mom or for your friend, or that's somebody else's mom, that's somebody else's friend. Like, they're just as important to cover in prayer as those who were personally close to you. Just because you don't know them yet doesn't mean that you couldn't love them dearly. So that's been an amazing opportunity that I didn't know that I would stumble upon or find. And that was something I didn't plan. There was something else that was pretty major, but it's just like, it feels normal now that it's in my life. What was it? I seriously wish that I could like pause when I'm recording just so I could think and like collect. Oh man. There's just been a lot. The hormone thing, working full time, finished the Bible, started volunteering. I'll think of it eventually. It's just really, is this still going? Okay, low battery. Yeah, I think that's kind of my time to stop. There has just been so much. Oh, I've been off of social media. So, my vice is obviously the social media that I have a hard time finding a healthy balance with is Instagram. And so I logged out of it mid-September, started kind of logging back in the beginning of December. But I had, when I was logging in, like, I wasn't logging in and scrolling for 15 minutes. Like, I was just checking in on a few things. Like, so many people were having babies and just these big things happening. And I just wanted to get in and I just wanted to be nosy. I just really missed people. And so I did that. But that was a goal that was kind of big, was just staying off of social media. The last 90 days, it's kind of crazy, but it's like, just in the last 90 days, like, there's maybe been more growth than, the 9 months prior. Like, it's really crazy to think about. And it's all because I've surrendered so much. I have just accepted that, and definitely looking through my archive, I just saw these things in myself that I really didn't like. Even when I filmed my testimony videos in August, I saw these things that I was still prideful. I was still, just wanting to put on a show. I wasn't being realistic about my life. And, looking back through my archive on Instagram and just seeing all the videos that I would put out, and it's embarrassing for me to see, like, even just listening to myself talk, there was no, like, I was just in such a state of unrest. And I was constantly, like, there was always something uncomfortable within me. There was always something that was poking me. There was always something that was like, and it's so visible just like watching those videos. So I really learned a lot just by looking back on the first 6 months of this year. And while the last 6 months of this year, I couldn't have imagined my life would be the way that it was, and that I got as much deliverance as I've gotten so far. And I know that there's still more to come. And yeah, I still feel like there's one big thing that I'm not even thinking of. Juniper, what is it? Something else big happened, right? Yeah? I don't know. It's funny. Grace is just, blessing just feels normal now. And I've been excited to live each and every day. Yeah. I think that's where I'm going to end. I'm just kind of ranting now. And I'm getting climbed all over by this little mountain goat. She's just like, I don't even know what you're doing. But I'm glad that I did this and just reminisced on 2019, because 2020, I'm not even setting goals for 2020. Here's the funny thing. It's like last year I started the year out with like 15 major goals. This year I'm not really setting any goals other than to surrender more. Because God is only going to do things for you in the area of your lives that you surrender. It's like, if you're not willing to give things up to him, he's not going to take half of this thing and transform it. Like, he wants it all. He wants to be able to do everything that he needs to do in that area of your life. And so this year I really just want to focus on surrendering. Last year was the year of self-care. This year, I just want to learn how to take care of others better. Because when we're taking care of others, we are blessed. You don't have to worry about not having enough when you're taking care of others, because God will always take care of you and fill you back up. And, I just am seeking more wisdom and just staying in the Word and spending more time in prayer and worship. And I'm just leaving the rest open, because I don't want to miss out on anything that God has for me this year, just because I'm too stubborn to go his way, or because I'm too busy doing these other things that I think that I need to improve on to notice when God's speaking to me, really. So, I am doing a workout program. It's actually it's a very ambitious program, because it's a hybrid, and I think that I would just really like to finish it, because I want to defeat the demons in my head that are telling me that I don't have willpower. I want to defeat, and in a way, it's just like such a spiritual expression of how my life has changed. I want to do it not expecting anything specific to happen. I'd obviously like to get healthier, but, to me, when I can prevail physically and fight, and it's not just the physical challenge, but it's the mental challenge that I struggle with. And so when you can prevail mentally, like, I just picture at the end of this hybrid program that I'm wanting to do, prevailing against every negative thought, against everything that's telling me I can't. Like, it's just a spiritual muscle, and a muscle of what's the word that I'm looking for? Something I've never really had before. What is it? Doesn't give us a spirit of timidness, but of power and of discipline. I want to be disciplined, and being disciplined and really being able to say no to those outside things that are trying to convince you that you're, I just want that discipline so badly, because I've never been a truly disciplined person. I've always just gone whichever way, and I'm just ready to, I'm ready for this year. I'm ready for this year of peace. I'm ready for this year of submission. I'm ready for this year of just serving. And it's just funny that, you know, last year I went from a year that was all about me to a year where I'm just like, you know, tell me where to go. Tell me where to go, because I am not going to waste any more time serving myself. Like, I'm not going to waste any more time missing out on opportunities. I'm not going to waste any more time missing out on opportunities to minister to people. I'm not wasting any more time missing opportunities to, you know, help someone to find God, to find love, to find peace, to find healing. I'm not missing that opportunity again. So here's to 2020. There's a 50-minute long video right there.